this. So we just wanted to know, how did you get to know about Shark Tank, and what's the exact procedure that lead to that we can follow to like, so that we can be there someday.
Okay, so like what I would rather say is that uh, so there are two things. There's like I can tell you that there was an application procedure. We filled an application and we filled it like right, and we made it there. Like there were multiple rounds there were multiple rounds in which we had to go and execute things and answer a lot of questions out of them, and we were able to then make it through. Uh, but the problem, like what the reality is that like we had like 2 years of work ready with us. We were working on this product and this business for the last 2 years. There was things that we had figured out about the market. There were things that we had figured out about the product. We could answer most of the questions that people would throw out at us because we had done it too many times. And having that, and then also filling the application in the same way that they again threw questions at us. We filled out the application. Those were good answers in some way, and then we made it there, and like there were multiple auditions there. Again, we repeated the same process. They asked us questions. We were ready with answers because of answering those questions before and figuring out things on the ground level ourselves. And then we made it in front of the sharks, who again asked us questions which we answered the right way, and we cracked a deal there. So I think the right question is that uh, you don't want to go to Shark Tank and be uh, be the not be the startup that is made fun of, right? You would rather want to be the one that is celebrated. So I don't know where I am lying. I'm hoping on the side where it's celebratory in one sense.
It's obvious, sir. You are on the celebratory side.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll let this opinion fly off.
Okay, sir.
If I may, if I may tell you something, I'm very impressed that you were on Shark Tank. I love the show. It's very impressive that you struck a deal, and I find it very impressive what you have built. But I was wondering, what is some of the greatest challenges with your particular startup? What were challenges you had faced when you were starting yours?
Absolutely, man. That's a brilliant question, Chase. Uh, I'll give you a little bit of an insight. So, like the Shark Tank episode was 10 minutes of our conversation with the sharks and everyone. It was actually a 1.5 hour conversation, uh, where like we had they grilled us out on like very specific things. Some of them like got lost in the context itself, and where there we actually addressed that there are very specific engineering challenges that you need to solve to wherever we are right now. So if like the biggest challenge that we faced in terms of this was like hardware. And hardware is in general like a hard problem to solve. It's the ecosystem in India is not kind of ready, to start having hardware startups flourishing in the market. So China and Shenzhen might be more ready for that. That where electronic components are available like vegetables that are sold outside in the market. So you can go and pick out components and figure out ways from there on that like what are the particular iterations that we have to do. Those cycles are much more larger here in India or any other country, perhaps. Even in the US or any other country, would take a longer time to get the product into market. And I think we had a lot of things on our side because we were, we were college students. We had lesser responsibilities. We were doing this as a BTP project, and everything was, working out in our favor to be accomplishing and slowly failing at these challenges, and then finally being able to iteratively progress into a space where we were actually able to build and deploy something up. So I think that was the main reason. uh, so like And I think once we had solved the hardware problem specifically, uh, the other things started falling into place. So everything that we always claimed or said that this is something that we will make someday. All of those things started to come in. Uh, Had a domino effect that they all started to fall in place. So yeah, and one big advice that I would actually give out is that I think the situation was just in our control, that we were actually able to do a hardware startup. But I would really recommend that if you're doing your first startup, don't let that be a hardware startup, because there is a lot that you in general have to learn about starting up itself, and you want to have lesser number of challenges when you're actually going and doing those things. And having hardware as a challenge is, of course, malab, you get that advantage definitely, that it's going to be hard to have competitors now. Like it's like anyone who has to do whatever we are doing, maybe it be Microsoft or Google, anyone, it will take them 6 months to 1 year to figure all of those things out that we had to figure out. Yeah, there are those advantages, but if you just had some experience about these kind of things, that of the in general ways of doing startups, uh, that would be really helpful to do commercializations of those. So we failed a lot of times, and finally it did not, I mean, we just didn't stop and were perseverant, and like it worked out for us. Yeah, I hope I was able to answer your question, Chase.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. That was some great advice, and I'm so glad you're successful.
Thank you so much. Chase. Not yet. We are not successful yet. We are on the path, I hope. Yeah.
Yeah, you're on a path, and that's amazing to hear.
So, as you have jumped into the sea of entrepreneurship, like what according to you is the most important trait an entrepreneur should have?
Hmm. And so I think so. This is something I'll directly take out from. I think I saw this. Kunal Shah said something like this, and like I will just directly just I was able to relate to that a lot, and that's exactly what I'll say here as well. I think we realized on our own that like a lot of the times you are uh, addressing things externally, right? That things are not working out because India mein hardware nahi banta, or things like that. Like everyone is just against me. What a bad world and what a bad society. Nobody wants change in life. Those are things that reflect out on the environment and blame the environment for s- uh, your possible failures, or possible hurdles that you are going to face. And I think one of the traits that I think we were able to at least have for a very large part of our career in, or like this startup itself, was we had a lot of self reflection, that what can we do to solve problems, what can we do to make the environment work, you know according to us, you know creating luck per se, right? And those were things when you start thinking and have that kind of a mindset, that you, like the founders themselves, are definitely, maybe we're not qualified to write you know production level code, but if you say that, like we have to, you will write production level code, if that's what your startup requires to do. If and those are basically the things that really matter. You have to kind of become generalist in a lot of things. Like I'll say, like a tech startup per se, that uh, we had to solve a lot of problems that we were not experts in. Like we just knew how to Google really well, and we knew how to exactly Google will give you the answers if there are specific questions that you know tell it, that if there's specific bugs that you search for, right? Like I'm sure if you've worked on JavaScript, you might have like gone through a lot then. But like in general, there is if you've gone and gotten your hands dirty on things, uh, Google will be very helpful for you. and any other kind of a forum will be really helpful for you, because then you'll be able to solve those problems. There is that, and then there is those problems that we had to solve that Google did not have answers to. When that started happening, then of course now you're alone in the world. Imagine that you're creating a product that nobody else around you, or nobody till your third degree connection, had ever had access to or ever had thought of. That's like, I'm sure that college students who are going into the next years, they're thinking that mentorship nahi hogi to main startup kaise karunga. Like, those are things that you think about, but real reality is that nahi hogi mentorship. There is going to be no mentorship. You are going to be alone at this path, and either you are going to be able to do it or not. You are like, that's what kind of, you can say, this is what leadership is. You're going to get your hands dirty. You're going to have to try things that you are not good at. You with that full possibility that you can absolutely fail at it, but probably you'll have to, if you're passionate about the product or like the business that you're building, you will not see that as an option that you're going to fail. You're just going to exploit everyone in your network, try to find out anybody who's figured out this or that, or some form of how they've figured these things out, and you're going to go and solve those problems. So I think, uh, like, coming back, I think one, like, the biggest thing that a founder is kind of supposed to have is that that perseverance, and that mindset that I mean, I probably have to do everything, at least initially. I have to figure out everything myself, and it's not the environment that's dictating that. It's going to be me who's actually bringing out that change. So I think that leadership is like kind of required, and everything else will kind of fall into place for this. Hello.
Absolutely agree with you, sir. So, it, I love the ways you described your startup, like the way you described your words, like for a new person to start into the entrepreneurial journey, it's a great insight. Like, and sir, one question I had in my mind was like, the sports tech related industry, it wasn't popular in India for quite some time. Like,
Mhm.
it has become popular after the Shark Tank, after your Shark Tank episode. Like, it is something we have heard of recently. So like, could you describe this term for our audience, and someone who has no idea about sports, like, how do we define a sports related startup?
So even I would say right now, like, sports tech industry has not made a lot of call even right now. I'd say we are still in that particular segment where like, not a lot of investors are looking at this industry in that particular way. But what like, had this recent discussion with a few people, but I'll get back to that. So in general, sports tech, I think, is basically, uh, now, there are different kinds of markets of sports itself. There is this broadcasting market. There is this clothing and apparel market. There is this, equipment. There is fan engagement, and there are like lots of segments that sports, uh, in general, encompasses. And where we, like, where Tweek Labs generally lies is the grassroots training and the athlete training and development market. So. Uh, and in this particular training and development market, then there are different sports, there are different levels. There is grassroots level, there is a professional level, there is a semi-professional level, who's like, players who are like just going into Ranji Trophy, or something like that. And uh, in general, I think sports tech is something that brings about this kind of a change. Yeah, there are like different kinds of sports technologies available. There are some startups like Match Day AI, who actually monitor a match and help you in analyzing a few insights about how exactly are you documenting your things. There are things that you actually document in a match, and automate a few things from the sports tech. There is like and there are like all sorts of things that are out there. So what I would say is, like, in the sports tech market where we are actually where we are delving into, there are these people like straight bat or stance beam or these kind of gadgets who actually put a sensor on the bat and try to give these kind of insights to people. Uh, and where we kind of believe ourselves to be is that that particular space where this particular technology in sports tech could be very investable in nature. So where we are coming from is that I mean, there are a lot of people who have suggested that this that they've come to us and said that this kind of technology can be used for every kind of sport, as if we did not know that before. uh, and like everyone's saying that you're building this for fast bowling, but there is so much scope of this technology everywhere else. But and we understand that. The thing is that every kind of a market is different. There is baby steps that you will have to take to actually go and generalize into a market. The Recently we had a discussion where we were trying to think of expansion of a product, and basically there has to be some empathy for the non-tech team. Okay, so you know there is going to be a specific challenge in engaging a specific kind of an audience. There is going to be distribution that needs to be figured out. There is going to be different kinds of challenges that every sport has. There is going to be different context, and the whole tech architecture is going to be different in those kind of segments. So, but the thing is that, like, a very good part about this is that the hardware is going to be consistent across all of those. And because of that, it makes this particular product much more scalable than the other sports tech products or other kind of technologies that might be coming in. So that's what the sports tech market is for us. And, like, I mean, we have an understanding that we want to be leaders of this market, who, like, at least the athlete training and development market, where we are providing a one solution that kind of fits all the kind of things that really need to be coached for athletes. That jo, for example, we've you really need to listen to your users. And what kind of users suggest is that the way cricket coaching happens or swimming coaching happens, or like a lot of these things happen, is they talk about a few things. And when we are building product, we are building product based on the few things that these people talk about in the ground. Not and of course, there will be additional things that they are offered based on these things. But uh, when that integration comes really well, that's going to be that spark that actually ignites your 0 to 1 process, and a product market fit starts to come in, right? So yeah, I mean, that's I think that's a little background that I can give for the sports tech market here.
So that was a lot of perspective, and we loved your words, sir.
Mhm.
Like this is another question that we have in our mind. So like I feel like this will be the most relatable question for the server and for the audience that will listen to it. So I would request you to like give a detailed or a brief, like a genuine answer. Like you get the
I'll
point.
do justice to it. Yep.
So
Yep.
my question is like you were in your final year of your college, and there was a lot. There might be a lot going on that happened on the institute, and in this whole journey, how did you figure out the path of entrepreneurship? How did you figure out that I want to start Tweek Labs, and how did you figure out the team that you made, and like what was your incentive of doing it? So like
Mm.
whole perspective, I think you should.
So you want to know, like, how it started?
Yeah,
Like, if
exactly.
so, like, this product started out in a lab. Like, our professor Aman Parnami had a lab in Triple IT Delhi, which was working on wearables. And like generally what happened was like I was working out in a gym, in the college gym, and like a student came in who was conducting a survey. And he said that what are your expectations from this particular machine that you're working out on. And he then took that survey, he built a product out of it, and everything happened. And uh, later on I kind of started to realize that the feedback that generally people want was usually not from something external, but from your own body, right? That like my muscles are paining was a particular technique at which the technique by which I was doing my exercise was that wrong. Why is there more pain in my muscles? And then delving deep into that, we kind of realized that uh, some of these things are really hard to actually monitor when you're actually into the actual executing those kind of things. uh, from that point I met my first founder, CTO, Shwetank. Shwetank, I met when I was, I came to first year in college, and there was this guy, like, four people who we built a project with. It was, we built something, with a Kinect. We built a robot, a shadow robot, that whatever you do, the robot does as well. So I had that bias that, we, we, we did a great job. Like, I think that was one of the best projects we executed on that particular day. And post that we have worked, participated in a lot of hackathons together. So we've been in general, love problem solving. And you guys know like what hackathons are, right? Like it's an amazing place where everything I told you, right, that you figure out things like you have no idea of. This is like uh, imagine that like your life is a hackathon. So that's a startup. That's a tech startup that you'd say. So so Shwetank was like the best person I could go. And we talked about this, and then we realized that there was this professor who was working in the field of wearables, and we went and talked to him. And we realized that okay, uh, there's a lot of synergy here, and let's build a motion capture suit. That sounds like the obvious solution to solve all the things that we are thinking about. From that point onwards, I think, uh, and like here is a very interesting perspective. So when we went to this research lab, uh, a lot of people might think that we are going from a lab setting to the market, to do entrepreneurship suddenly. But the perspective was always this, that we never wanted to do research on this. We, on the day one, we were absolutely sure that we want to build this as a business, and not because of the money, but uh, because the end goal of whatever we were trying to build, uh, this is not going to happen like the way we were imagining the world to be in the next 5 to 10 years. It's not going to happen if this is going to just be a research project, or if money or commercials are not involved. And that is how we took this process, and started thinking on the first principles only as a commercial aspect itself. And that is where this came into the picture. We wanted to fuel our own self while we create this innovation and present it out in the world. And that has been our motivation. And that was when our fourth member of the team joined in, uh, Ayush Kushwaha, who was like the captain of the cricket team at that time at Triple IT Delhi. We were like flying here, there, everywhere, like, going and talking to athletes, gym goers, basketball players, football players, everyone. And we were just trying to build a solution for someone or the other. And, suddenly this intern comes in, and he comes and says that, one day we are going to go to this place, and, when we build a product for cricket, we're going to go to this place and talk to these people. And that was the statement that has made the most impact for Tweak Labs. There is this particular response that you're looking for, that these guys are the early adopters in the particular technology that you build. So when you build tech, you build something disruptive, and it's something absolutely new. You're looking for the first few users who are like absolutely amazed by it, and they're going to go out of their way to try to use the product no matter how badly you have built the product till now, right? These people are called early adopters. We went to the Delhi District Cricket Association, and the person was absolutely impressed by whatever shit prototype that we had built till now. And that was our first indication that, you know, this is that particular market that needs the product the most in our particular locality. This is the place where we can get the most productive in the next 1.5 years, wherever we are. And if we build a solution from them, these people will buy it and pay money for it. And uh, taking that niche and taking Ayush's knowledge and biases and all of that experience, it brought a shape to this, this big tech company that we were actually trying to form, brought it into a niche and actually decided a target market segment, a go-to market to it. And that's what has made this impact. And this is where we are. We've solved the problem for one sport. We've created this ecosystem, this great tech stack and architecture that can help us scale into multiple sports with, you know a much more ease than it would have been if we were to, keep on generalizing and saying that we can do everything right now. So, and this is what has brought in that differentiation for ourselves. And that's where we met the team. It all happened organically. We knew each other. We all believed in the vision of the company. And I think, like, I would rather really say that, that's the hardest part of the startup. Finding the team. We were just like really, really, I find myself to be really, really lucky to be working with these three people who have, different kind of, expertise in different areas, and are like, and have been as perseverant as I have been, and as passionate as I have been into building this wherever it is, and of course competent as well to be actually building whatever has been built. So
That
yep,
is
that's
amazing.
yeah,
I
that
was
that
my
that
next question.
yeah.
Oh, my bad. My next question was I was wondering what you have a sports tech startup. I was wondering, is there a sport you focus on to provide tech for? Would it be cricket, soccer, or football, or some other sport, or do you just do a wide generalization of sports?
So what I would say, Chase, here is that, like, what we wanted to do was actually go and solve problems here. So there is this generalized tech stack that is for everything, every kind of an activity, right? We've actually created a framework that can help you automate the information that coaches require in particular sports. So let's say that, a fast bowler has, there is contextualization of the motion of the person who's doing it, right? That's what we've been focusing on building. The an AI that contextualizes the motion of the person who's actually doing the activity. And once that context is ready with us, then you actually build, create insights to coaches that, okay, these are the places that you can actually create interventions. So that's where the short answer is, that, it's for all sports on till one point, and then it becomes specific into a particular sport to, scale into that market. Like, it becomes easier and easier to understand, and more coaches and players can use it without having a PhD in biomechanics, and, get the world class training that everyone, uh, the world class training that not everyone had access to because of the less time that the best coaches in the world have in the world. Yeah.
So your products can apply to a wide range of different sports, and then you can individualize those to fit the needs of the sport you're applying your product to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep, that's
That's
right.
quite
That's right.
intuitive. I like that.
Yeah. Thanks, Chase.
So I would like to just ask a general question that how are you managing your academics with this in the early days?
Oh, don't
Yeah,
ask, don't ask. I
especially
was
you
not.
are in triple IIT Delhi.
Yeah. I was not
And
managing my academics with this. Like,
Okay.
after a point, I had like accepted that, this is not something that. So the lockdown helped a lot. At that time, everything shifted online. uh, it was absolute hell. Okay, so like we did have a BTP, and so I would really say, doing this startup in DTU would have been easier in some aspects and harder in some other aspects. Uh, Triple IT Delhi, it gave me that. So there are these courses that Triple IT offers that are elective courses, right? And they were EC heavy courses. It gave me biases. uh, if you go and like you're forced to actually learn a few things, like you don't really know that when in your life in the future they might become useful. So courses were helping me in that. I did a course on machine learning. I can train all sorts of uh, I can use all sorts of algorithms to train my models. uh, but I mean, the things that I really needed was like learning how to write firmware, let's say. Those things, some of the things were absolutely self learning, and some of the things were like absolutely waste that I learned at triple IT up till now. uh, but I think after a point when you have that confidence, right? Like now I don't need an 8 GP anymore. I don't need a 9 GP anymore. Like like it's okay that I have to figure out some priorities in life, right? Like you can't keep on saying that I am going to keep masters as a plan, uh, and still try to do my startup. No, like we were like after that point when we decided that even after leaving college this is something that we are going to continue doing. That was the point we realized that like let's just bare minimum have those grades that help you survive. I hope there are no professors here, but like I think we tried to approach it in that way that okay, so there were some courses that I intentionally took. There were problems I was facing in our tech stack. I took courses to understand how I would think about this in the future if I were to hire someone in the team. How I would take those things in the future. There were some courses I easily took and executed like in that way. But my sole priority was that to take the least amount of load I can in the academics, to only work on my startup. Sometimes it did not work out. I was absolutely stressed out, and with the lockdown in picture, so me and Shwetank, my CTO, we were actually locked inside a house after like in March we were supposed to have our first launch of our product, March 2020. And I think everyone know what happened after that. And we were locked inside, and we realized if we would have launched on March 1st, it would have been way too demotivating for us. We would have shut the company immediately. Uh, but now that we got time, we built the product in these four within these four walls. We graduated within these four walls, and we learned a lot of household chores uh, in within these four walls, like including things like cooking and all of those things. So we had to take care of ourselves, our academics, and make sure that we have something amazing to work on after we are out of this place. So yeah, I mean, it was hard, but like we were not blaming the external environment. We had a lot of fun in that experience, and that's where we are.
Okay, so COVID came out to be fruitful for you guys.
I mean, you could say that. Like, I think we built a lot of things during COVID, and I think once we were out of that particular space, we had good places that we could go to. We met uh, like good people, and we had like a very big thing that we had figured out in terms of hardware. after which there was a bigger horizon that we could see further from that point onwards. So yeah, I think that's true that the lockdown was really helpful for us to sit down and focus on the product rather than the things that generic mentors or startup founders tell you to do, that go and talk to users, launch the product out in the market. There are some products that might actually require you to sit down and work on the product itself, because if you don't, then like it's not a traditional startup route sometimes. And this was I have a strong belief that this was one of those situations.
Yes, sir. So I would also like to ask another question like, do you consume content? Or if yes, then what sort of content do you consume in your free time?
Okay, so I consume a lot of Y Combinator startup school content. So, uh, like, I think, so, entrepreneurship itself is a big course. Like, if you take machine learning as a course, or, any kind of a computer science hard skill as a course, entrepreneurship is also that. And of course, like, you kind of want to go through as many case studies as you can to ensure that you're not just a stupid person who's just alone in doing something on a particular path. I mean, you need to understand that there are some case studies, people have solved some of the problems that you have. And we realized that by Y Combinator startup school there were conversations that were way too relatable for us, because we've gotten our hands dirty in the similar kind of processes. And having that validation, and having that having that validation that wherever you're going it's the right path, uh, getting these tips and tricks about what when Airbnb was building, what were the problems they were solving when Reddit was being built, or when Elon Musk was doing going through SpaceX, what was the things that they were going through. uh, these things have been like the major source of good content that I actually go through. The other kind of content is like kind of cringe. Like, I try to understand a lot of my market. So I like our Tweek Labs Instagram account, for example, is has a lot of follows a lot of cricket players and who are across the country. I try to figure out what are the kind of trends that they are trying and figuring out, and like trying to have my marketing strategies according to that. And majorly, but like other than that, majorly it's more of the content that inspires you to keep doing startups here, like other kind of case studies, and YouTube videos that are like really informative in so there is this Slide Bean has come up with this particular series called startup documentaries, and it talks about a lot of startups. So for example, it's very relevant to us how Fitbit, where what was the life story of Fitbit, right? Uh, how did watches come into being? I've recently shared a post about how Steve Jobs was giving an interview on, like, he was 10 years into making Apple. And it was just hearing what conversation he had. Like, it was similar to, kind of this kind of an interview where the interviewer was asking them questions. So, like, I'll give you a specific example. So, uh, he was asked that, do you really think that a personal computer can be used by everybody, sitting at home? Do you think that a personal computer could actually be at home? uh, and to that his response was that you sometimes build things that users get some advantages of. We build the product for offices, like people who work at offices and these kind of places. But uh, we've realized a lot of people are taking the PC home, and we'll be open at some point of time to have a market where this is something that everyone has access to. Uh, we have some similar conversations about our own product, that this is something that specialized sports people or passionate sports people use at the moment. And we kind of see it that in the future, uh, there are going to be sensors that are embedded on your t-shirts, that the ones that you're wearing right now, and tracking your motion and contextualizing it, right? So it's something that we believe in, but like, I mean, it's yet to be proven into them. We are not cocky about it, like this is how it's going to be. We are just waiting for data to come into us and then have these kind of opinions. So it's also, when you hear these things, you also kind of try to understand that what kind of a personality are you putting out there, like what kind of a conversation should you have with people at relevant points in time. And it humbles you down that this is how you should be thinking about your business. And I think you people can relate to this, that there is nothing fake about the things that I'm saying. This is something that everything that I'm saying is something I really believe in and is really in the business. And bringing that perspective that everything that you are believing in is something that you can converse about is happens a lot with the case studies and the content that you consume. And it really guides you into having these kind of opinions about your business and whatever you go out and speak to others about. So yeah, yeah. So that's I think that's a very good question that you asked. Nobody has asked me that before.
That was quite insightful, sir.
Mm, absolutely.
Uh, hi, hi, Anant. So my
Hi.
question was, why B2B? Why not B2C? Like, uh, why you are selling only complete set of sensors? Why not sell sensors individually? See, the price margin for the entire set is very huge, right? And that price doesn't attract a huge market. So why not sell the required sensors?
So think of this in this way, that like the more number of products that you have in the market, like it's a very similar question to why are you only selling in fast volume. Basically, you can kind of say that basically the more number of products and the more diverse kind of things that you actually sell in the market, the more scalability issues you start facing into the technology itself, right? So let's say that we've done that basically. Like, I'll give you a small. So when we were actually going into bowling, we said that there are two sensors that actually help you detect bhatta, like like suspect action. So basically, your arm cannot bend more than 15 degrees, otherwise it's called a suspect action and you can be called out for it in cricket, let's say. So we went and started trying to sell that. And yeah, it was much cheaper. But the thing was that, like, people didn't want to buy it. Like, it was not providing enough value to them. And like, I understand, like, it needs to have good features that really solve some kind of their problem. It was not solving a problem for them, it was just business. Like, I think the team did not want to go into that kind of a segment, right? That just go and sell some sensors and you know let's see if the market is ready for it. We wanted to sell the thing that, like, we believed in. And a full body suit, basically, our goal was to actually get context out of motion, right? And smart watches and like all of these things have already proved those things for us, that one sensor unit works. Like, it's no point in going and testing those points again, that we'll become competitors of Fitbit and try to do things that we can do with a Fitbit but with our own sensors. So we just thought that that's something reluctant. And we'd rather do something that is differentiating us from the rest of the market. There are motion capture suits that do it too, but like, again, they do not bring context to motion. We want to build that software layer that and helps us learn whatever next steps that we take in life. So that's the one of the reasons where we do not want to have a single sensor unit, because neither do we know, neither do our customers know what do they actually do with it. While people actually know what to do with the current motion capture suit, and that did not exist till now. That never happened till date, that people knew what to do with a motion capture suit, and that to someone who's like a coach in less tech savvy coach understands what they can do with the motion capture suit. So that's where our bias is. We could be wrong. You can try and I mean, everyone has their own opinion, and someone else can try to do and sell a single sensor or two sensor units. I mean, that's not what we are trying to do. Basically, that's all.
Okay.
Good evening, sir. Subhanshu this side. I just had one question for you. Like,
Sure.
what if you were not able to like get funding from Shark Tank? Then what were your plans after that?
Actually, we had funding before that. We were actually going for a friends and family round.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
We
okay,
we,
okay.
we had already raised about 40 lakh rupees. We also got a government grant. We actually raised 70 lakh rupees. Uh, like Shark Tank basically helped us complete our run. So like if Shark Tank was not there, we would have like raised from other sources. And that's actually the reason why we actually got a deal. We were pitching for a very long time. We knew how to pitch, and like we had already answered all of those questions, and we were successful at it too. So everything was sorted for that sense. Uh, and even right now, I think we've raised only that amount of money that helps us go and prove a few things into the market that then help us raise even more money. So even right now, I think like I don't know what your opinions are, but like we believe that we have been undervalued, but that's okay. I think we believe that uh, there are some things that have to be done, and once we actually do those things, our value will be exponentially more, because we have this amazing deep tech, that is something that we have, and also we have a business that's running out, and there's some traction that we've got that proves a lot of the things for investors, and we look forward to what's going to happen after that. So yeah, that's the
And
key points. I think in the next 6 months to 1 year, you are going to hear a bigger fundraise from us, probably by some big venture capital firm, and let's hope that that happens sooner than later. But like I think uh, we'll see where the situations take us. But right now, I think we're focused on getting traction and like building the business further, and making sure that we are not just talks but like real business and numbers. And that's something that I think that's important to do. And like it's harder to raise money without those numbers. So once you have those numbers, like that's that's what's going to actually sell to these investors and venture capitalists. I think one thing that we've learned in this fundraising journey, and Ashni reiterated it, that there are two ways you can be raising funds in India. One is that you have a very good brand associated with you. So, for example, maybe and you're Kunal Shah, who's done a startup, exited from it. Now, only based on an idea, I can raise funds. I have that credibility, right? I have that credibility. And the other way is that you can do some business and prove it. Uh, you prove it to investors. If you don't invest right now, it's you're going to miss out on something. So we never had that credibility, and credibility, like these things also work. That you're a Stanford graduate, uh, who came to India and now want to deliver things in 10 minutes. Those things also work. You'll be able to raise funds based on that. They also had numbers as well, but it's uh, when you're building something deep tech, it's harder to get traction. You need to spend a lot of money before you get your first paying customer, right? And that's a challenge. Like again, this is why I would recommending not to do a hardware startup as your first startup, because fundraising itself is a different challenge. And when you need to raise funds to get your first customers, imagine how hard that is when I described this previous scenario to you. So yeah, I mean, that's where I'll yeah, that's I hope I answered your question.
Sir, I have a following question for that. If you could
Yeah,
answer.
sure,
Like,
sure.
you said that your company is undervalued. So like there were many cases that we saw that the valuation was dipped from something to a very less number, even below the revenue. So like there was something called the shark experience that the sharks were pitching in the Shark Tank, and you got the funding, and you might have interacted with the sharks, so you know what the shark experience actually is. So like my point is was the companies uh, devaluing themselves to get the shark experience justified, or did the sharks add that value to a startup that they couldn't get another ways, and how did it add to yours if it did to others?
So okay, so like what I would say is that a lot of first time founders, they do not have a very good access to knowledge about fundraising. So all the people who were sitting on that panel on the other side, they were like, you could call them experts in fundraising, right? Uh, they have raised funds in different situations from different kind of people and different kind of entities. So them coming on board is that missing credibility mark that we have. If you know what I mean, right? Like uh, these people, like, so angel investors understand, they only relate to the process. They bet on the entrepreneurs. How do they actually evaluate that? They ask us questions and see if this is what we would have done if we were in their place. So based on that, they evaluated this and like got this there. In terms of actual business, you know if I were to quote Ashneer, like this is something that he said, देखो धंधा तुम्हारा है, तुम्हें ही चलाना आता है, right? मतलब you if the more you are going to be dependent on mentors and investors in running your business, the more likely it is that you are going to fail. This is what Anupam said in one of his podcasts with Rohan Joshi and Anmay. And I mean, it's really believable. It's the same philosophy that Kunal Shah shared, right? That figuring out things on your own really has to work. And we understood that, like, it eventually happens that if you keep talking to a mentor, you realize that because of me going onto the ground, working on the things that I'm working on, uh, you are way more biased towards making sure that this business survives. Like someone could have a top level understanding of how in general businesses work, but like some founder will only have will have the most bias towards how they can actually build this and uh, you know make it grow. Everyone has problems, but a founder possibly has the most bias towards why am I solving this problem and not this problem. People will question you on that. You will just have the answers to that. Like people will question is that why don't you have traction? You should have traction. We know. Like but like there are things that you have to do before that happens. So because of that, like these people actually trust in us. The sharks trust in us. They basically put out a very good path for us for the future. Now from this point onwards, you do what you are doing. You're going to lay down a path that is easier if you do the things right. And I believe that is something that is worth getting devalued. I'd say that like थोड़ा सा चलता है. हमने जितना ऑफर किया था उससे थोड़ा सा चलता है. And maybe we don't know yet. No, मतलब maybe 5 years down the line I'm regretting this, that इतनी बड़ी company हो गई and like there's so much that we built, and like I regret that, but as of now, I don't feel that way. I think everything is going in the right direction. Yep.
Thank you, sir. It was a really great session. We really loved talking to you, and
Yep.
even talking to you for 1 hour seems so short. Even if we were given an opportunity to talk with you for 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hours or so, then also it would have been less. It was such a great conversation. We were able to connect with you like so amazingly because since we all are students as well, like I'm in my first year, I'm from DTU as well. So we all are able to connect with you because you have just cleared that phase. It was really amazing. We loved the session, and I hope the audience also enjoyed the session. We really expect that we can have you in future as well again as our guest and someday, and we hope that Tweek Lab grows so that we can also tell to the world that we had the co-founder and the CEO of Tweek Labs with us. So thank you
Yep.
for your
Yep.
valuable time. We really appreciate it. And everyone, it's requested to drop the review for the event in the event section. And you can also go to the events and check out the upcoming events we are going to have. And thank you, Mr. Anant, for your valuable time. And thank you so much. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. You guys asked really amazing questions. I hope to like uh, I hope to make sure that like I make you guys proud that you were a part of this conversation. Thank
So
you.
we loved your humbleness, sir. Humbleness, sir. And like we are very proud to have you here. And I hope that whoever sees this video like cherishes it that they saw it. Like there is a lot to learn from this video. And I hope you
I
start
hope.
Can I
following
ask?
it.
Can I ask one more question? Like, what will be your advice for who is just starting up? Like, I'm in my first year. Many of us are in first year. So who is just
Hmm.
starting up, just got into college?
So like I would say that I mean, malab, uh, wow. I mean, that's actually a hard question. Like that's a really hard question. I think one thing is okay. So what I would say is that like agar, if you have an idea and you think it's going to work, just start doing things like in that direction. Like be scared of failure and do exactly those things that are going to make you fail, and then figure out paths from there. That's the only way it's going to work. I mean, it's like starting execution is one of the most important things for someone who's actually planning to start up. And the like it's basically what I would say is that startups are a scientific. It's a science. You go there, you try, you have some hypotheses in your head, you create experiments to validate or invalidate those hypotheses, and based on the results that you get, you proceed further. You just do this hell lot of times, and that's the only way it's going to work. You need to go and execute those experiments, and until that does not happen, you just need to make sure that that happens. Matlab, there is no other startup that exists that does not do this. So yeah, I think uh, that's a ground up advice that I can give. Yeah.
That's a good one. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Cool.
And as I just said, the longer you'll stay, the longer we would love to talk with you
Yeah.
because we
Yes,
have tons
I
of
have to.
questions and it's so amazing to talk with you. And it was really great having this session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you
And
so much.
all the
Thank you so
best
much,
to
guys.
you and to Tweak Labs as well.
Thank you so much, guys. All the best to you as well. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you